Hello, my name is Pat Bendel,
And I'm Ruth Bendel.
and we make being a third wheel very comfortable for everyone.
Welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we explore what comes after career. Real conversations about transitioning from the 9-to-5 grind to your next great adventure. Whether you're heading into retirement or simply redefining what purpose means, we're here to inspire, inform, and help you reimagine what's next. This isn't the end of the road. It's the start of something new. Adam and Dale, it's great to see you again in the studio, and we are going to have a great conversation today. Like always, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a little inspiring, and I think it's something that's fitting into what we like to offer here on the Redirect Podcast about engagement. We want to get people involved. We want to get people going out and doing things and working with great causes. So before we get into our guests and the conversation today, I have a question for you. When I say the word wheelhouse, what comes to mind?
This question sounds like a setup, Curt, a wheelhouse, and you know how much time I spend on bicycles. But when you mention wheelhouse, I feel like it's a place that's very comfortable for me and actually a place where I can really succeed and win. That to me is wheelhouse.
I like that. It's very unique.
Certainly not as good as what I'm going to hear from you.
Oh, no way. No way.
Okay, well,
I'm
shoot.
just kidding. It's a baseball term. Technically, it goes back to something more dated than that, but it's a baseball term. It is the spot in the strike zone that a batter really prefers to hit. And that phrase came out in like the 50s or whatever, where if a batter got a pitch in their preferred area of the strike zone, it was declared to be right in his wheelhouse because he would turn on it and put it somewhere.
Well, I'm going to respectfully make a comment to you there, Adam, that I think that your references is modern day.
Yes.
Technically, if we go back to the original founding of the word wheelhouse, it's an enclosed structure on a ship containing the steering wheel and navigational equipment.
The etymology is in the era of 1937.
Okay. Wow. So you are smart as well.
Informed,
Boom.
Not smart.
We can't drop the mic, but we would have dropped the mic on that one.
I'm just glad you didn't throw it at me.
That's true.
But getting back to how we most commonly use the word wheelhouse, what are the areas of expertise, skill, or comfort that you possess in your personal life?
I would say the crossover between what I do in my professional life and how it comes to bear in my personal life. The things that I do really well in my profession, when I get to employ those, pun intended, in my personal life, it just feels organic. It feels natural. Like I like breaking down complex problems into discernible, actionable chunks, figuring out what the solution could be for a given segment of a larger problem, and then chart a course for resolution. I'm good at that. And when I get to do that in my personal life, it feels like I put one over the fence, to bring it back to my analogy.
My wheelhouse, and I kind of go back to my career, but I think of what makes you successful and what gives you that fulfillment has always been my approachability, and just ease of which people can kind of connect with me, because I feel like relationships have always been my wheelhouse. I love meeting people. I've always wanted to meet every person in the world. I know the only way to that is to be approachable and to give them an opportunity to want to have a connection with me somehow.
I would agree with that completely. That is 100% you. And I'm all kidding aside, endearingly, that's one of your traits that draws me to you.
I think he's trying to kiss up to you there, Dale. But I, too, like Dale, I look at it in two different things. I think, first of all, my personality is a wheelhouse of mine in the sense that I have this character, and I say that in quotes, character,
Caricature.
Yeah, there you go. That just loves to get in the middle of things and loves to just, talk to people and be engaged. That's why I like doing presentations. That's why I got into sales. And then some of the stuff that I brought from my work world is organizational, administrative. I love to think and dwell on things and to sort of, pull life experiences into all this type of stuff. But the biggest wheelhouse I have is just, get in a room and let's just start meeting people. And that's what I like. That's what I really enjoy.
Speaking of meeting people, today's friends of the Redirect podcast are Ruth and Pat Bendel. Ruth and Pat are certified registered nurse anesthetists, CRNAs, and co-owners of R&P Anesthesia, LLC, based in Lebanon, Ohio. Ruth brings 33 years of experience as a CRNA, while Pat has 38 years of experience in the same role. Both Ruth and Pat enjoy volunteering, meeting, and working with people, enthusiastically embracing the outdoors, and are dedicated to finding their purpose in life's next chapter. I've had the pleasure to meet Ruth and Pat at a Reframing Aging Symposium held back in March, where they mentioned the opportunity with Three-Wheel Therapy, a nonprofit organization that provides free therapeutic rides on adaptive tricycles for those who are unable to ride a traditional bicycle or a tricycle. And of course, we immediately hit it off talking about our love of cycling and this extraordinary program, which I personally am really, really excited about. Pat and Ruth are Three-Wheel Therapy board members, and as of February 2026, have opened a Dayton area chapter servicing Montgomery and Warren counties. Ruth and Pat, welcome to our Redirect podcast.
Good morning.
So you guys are, you're both still working in healthcare. We started our conversation. It was typically, what are you doing and kind of what's your passion? But let's just talk about your background in the healthcare industry.
Well, we have been, as you said, in healthcare a long time. A little tidbit is Pat and I are slightly competitive because
with each other,
yes, and ourselves. We require a lot of ourselves. But I noticed when he tweaked the bio and sent it back to you, he did not include my 10 years of nursing in addition to the 33. So I've actually been working a little bit longer than he has, but anesthesia, he's got a few years on me for that. So anyway, we've been in healthcare a long time. It's been a great career. We've both loved it and could really continue for a while yet in healthcare if we chose to.
Mm-hmm.
But for a number of reasons, we've decided that we are going to do a soft retirement, which essentially will be a little bit of healthcare and a lot of bit of fun, some of which is three-wheel therapy.
So we're fortunate that in our profession, we can move our hours around. So I actually went from working 40 hours a week down to 20 hours a week. And then I still do call for one of our service lines. So that's why we're calling it a soft retirement. I don't think either one of us could professionally or personally just stop tomorrow. We just wanted to ease our way out because we know there's benefits to staying engaged. And that's what led us to this next chapter of three-wheel therapy.
And we have peers that we've seen that have waited too long. And then they're dealing with other issues that are somewhat out of their control. And we're both still healthy, vibrant. We consider ourselves lifelong learners. So, and I heard a phrase not too long ago that talked about working in life. We have a lot of years of working in life. Now we're going to work on life.
Oh, that's good.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, we talk a lot about on the Redirect podcast with our people that are in the pre-retirement stage to sort of have this vision, have this thought of what it might look later on. And I like to use the phrase, go test drive. And it seems like you guys are doing exactly that. That's awesome.
Yeah, we did not want to wait. We wanted to start the process early. So we've actually been discussing retirement for over 5 years and then more intently over the last 2 years. And everything we've read and we've learned is you don't wait to start it. You start the process early. But then the other part is being willing to change as you move through that process. And I think that's the pattern that we're following for both of us.
What was the spark, the ignition to get you started to think about retirement?
We knew financially we had a goal in mind, a number. I think I was probably ready when that time hit. Pat, not quite so close to that. But we also know, just from friends and coworkers, that you can wait too long. And if you also it may be trial and error. We may find one area we really want to put a lot of time into, but then we may find some other things that also interest us. So we wanted to grasp and seize the moment, really.
We also didn't want to be one of these individuals that said, boy, I wish I could have done one more anesthetic. No. What we're saying is, what can we do outside of that world and get joy out of that?
Well, we talk to a lot of people, I think, who are in their redirected years. And one of the things I keep hearing said, I don't feel like I need to do work one more day, and you don't want to, think back saying, oh gosh, yeah, I really wanted to work one more day. We don't hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody really comes out and says that. So
one of the things I really appreciate about what we get to do in this work on the podcast is kind of reframing this idea of retirement. The conventional idea of retirement seems to be hang it up, go do whatever you want, and you're fine. You'll figure it out. It's so much more about not working anymore, and that's fine. I'm not suggesting that that's all bad, but retiring to something and having cause and purpose and meaning beyond your last day, punching the clock is really what we're all about. And I'm excited to talk more about what is next for you after anesthesia.
And before we do that, the one question I have is that you obviously love what you're doing professionally. You obviously love what you're getting into in this new opportunity that you have. How are you going to manage the margins? Because you still love the medical world that you're doing, and then now you're sort of doing a startup, even though it's an organized business, but you're doing a chapter setup here. It's a startup, and that requires a lot of head time, a lot of computer time. And how are you going to set yourself margins for that so that you don't burn out on either of them?
We constantly talk between us to make sure that we're keeping that circle in line, meaning we know there's times that we're going to be putting more effort and time into three-wheel therapy because we're in the initial stages of the fundraising to afford the trikes. So it's a lot of communication between the two of us on where we're headed, how much time and effort we're putting into it, because we've always multitasked. If you look back over our careers, I've always held 2 or 3 jobs simultaneously. So it's kind of been within our DNA to pursue multiple things at one time.
Talk about that. I mean, 2 or 3 jobs in addition to being an anesthetist. What other jobs were you doing?
So one time I was working for a company out of Boston, and I was doing a lot of traveling and education on an anesthesia product for them. But I also knew I needed to maintain my hours in CEUs as a nurse anesthetist. So I would work for them Monday through Friday, come home, and then work a Saturday at one of the local hospitals, and then start traveling again Monday. And then we took on getting involved with mission work, and that was a 7-year process, going to Nicaragua with Amigos for Christ. And that turned into almost another job because I was arranging everybody's transportation. Interestingly enough, I forgot to do ours the one year, and it cost me a lot of money. It's just trying to stay organized and keep moving ahead and staying engaged.
We really focus on balance and communication. We can't say all of our communication is cohesive, but we talk through a lot of things. And when we get out of balance, one of us usually recognizes it pretty quickly. With regard to three-wheel therapy, we were both like gung-ho, jump in, both feet, and we were stepping on each other's toes a little bit. And so we realized very quickly, Pat's super organized. He's great on the computer end of things. And so therefore, I backed off and said, you manage all of this, and I will do the things that you need help with and be kind of your right-hand man, so to speak. It's, I like to lead too, but you can't have two leaders right out in front. So we've worked out the details on that. And as a couple going into retirement who want to work together, I think that that's really smart to work that out early on. What are your roles?
Wow, that's a great question.
That's wisdom.
And you mentioned the word three-wheel therapy and brought that up. Let's dig into it, because it's certainly something that when we started talking about it, my ears went massively up. We've been talking about Wheelhouse. How did this get started, and how does this taking up your time now? Tell us a little bit more about it.
So we were up in Cleveland doing some bike riding, and we were on the trail, and we saw this group coming the other way. We've never seen these type of bikes, and we thought we want to go back and talk to them. So we went over, introduced ourselves to them, and they essentially got into the program because Bill's wife had had a major stroke, and she was no longer able to ride a bike. And they found that this is the way that she could still spend time with Bill out on the bike. And then they got involved with three-wheel therapy, which is based in Carolina Beach, North Carolina. And they started a chapter up in the Akron area, and they proceeded to talk to us about it. And then they gave us a business card, which we held on to. And we got very excited about this. So on our drive back from Cleveland, we continued to talk about this opportunity. And then I'll let Ruth say where we went with that.
Well, we hadn't seen anything like it. I mean, they drove by us on the bike trail, and we were like little bobbleheads. What was that?
Who was that?
Take a second to describe that vehicle to us, please.
Well, we've ridden all of our lives together. One of our first dates was on a bicycle. It was a road bike. It was a thin tire. So he reached over to give me you're doing a great job, knocked me right off the bike. But anyway, we didn't recognize the three-wheel therapy at first, but then we continued on our ride. They continued doing what they were doing. And then lo and behold, as we come back to the parking lot to leave, there they were,
There they are.
loading up their trikes. And I'm the type of person, I feel like the Holy Spirit's out there and is working.
That's great.
And it just lands on me. And so I said to Pat, we need to look at this. So he starts to talk to Bill. We get the card and we start the conversation. But we're not yet retired. So we're continuing to decipher whether this is for us or not. And then finally, right after Pat decreased some of his hours, he turned and looked at me and he said, we need to decide what we're going to do with this. And I said, it was late in the evening, and I said, okay, we're going to go to bed. We're going to pray about it. We're going to get up tomorrow and we're making a decision. And when we get up the next morning, I was like, let's do this. And we were both all in. We made the phone call that day to three-wheel therapy, to Ken and Nicole. They took it to the board and called us the next day and invited us to join.
So if you're giving rides to somebody on a bike, this bike is sort of adapted to have a seat up front. And then I imagine the rider has to have some pretty strong legs in order to propel, right?
No, fortunately, they're electric power assisted bikes. So you are right. In the front is where the person that's getting the ride will sit. Then what we call the pilot sits behind them and provides the legwork. Then we have what we call a co-pilot who's riding their own bike, providing a level of safety as the ride commences. So typically for 2 trikes, you're going to have 4 volunteers on the road, and then you're going to have 1 person back at the trailhead or wherever in the parking lot processing the paperwork, because there are waivers that need to be signed for the different riders. The trikes, I don't know how fast they go. I have a couple people that are willing to try it, but they come from the Netherlands. So that's a process. We ordered the trikes back in February. We're hoping that they get shipped. Supposedly they're on the boat right now, coming over to the United States. Will come to Rhode Island and then to us.
So have you had conversations yet with any of the big bike manufacturers that might jump on something like this, or, would want to come in and sponsor? I'd start thinking wildly about, if this is just this one company, there's got to be more, there's got to be others that have been thinking about this, or is this so new?
No, there are other companies out there, but what we have learned is that Three-Wheel Therapy prefers to go with this particular maker, Von Rom, out of the Netherlands, to supply their bikes. There's a group up in Portland that uses their bikes also. So this is the one that we want to stick with. Some of the things that we've learned is to prolong our riding season. We have a blanket that can fit over the participant and keep them warm. And then the other thing that's surprised us is how many riders show up wearing oxygen. So we actually have a sleeve that you can put the oxygen tank in and continue with that process.
Time for a quick break. If you're liking what you're hearing, do us a quick favor. Hit that follow button, share it with your friends and family, drop us a quick comment, and then a 5-star review. It really helps us keep going and growing. Then head over to Instagram and follow us there too. Thanks for the help. And now let's get back to work. So this is a tricycle, and traditionally or primarily these are 2 wheels up front,
Correct.
1 wheel in the rear, and it's power assisted.
Correct.
That's
and I'm going to ask the question, like, the price for one of these.
Yes, anytime you start talking electronics, the price goes up. So per trike landed in the U.S., we're looking at about $13,000. So we're talking roughly $26,000 for 2 trikes that we're trying to raise right now.
How many other pilots are you thinking you're going to need to do what you want to do? Because there's the getting the bike, there's the now finding the riders and finding the pilots.
Right. That's a great question. So we've been at this since February. To date, we have about 30 people who want to volunteer to help this process move forward. And they've been from the Dayton area. They've been from the Cincinnati area. We're actually doing an open house to welcome all of our volunteers into the process. They all have to go through a 2-hour training program because we want to be consistent with the rides that we're doing from the different chapters. And then we'll shove those dates out to them. But yeah, so far 30 people, which has been extremely humbling.
Well, now that I know I need to sign up for the Dayton.
Correct.
That's where you'll see my name.
Very good. We'll look forward to it.
Yes.
Where do you find the people that are going to be blessed by having the ride?
It's been a lot of networking, and that's where some of our volunteers have actually said, hey, you need to call this company or you need to look into this person. So we've also done some of the legwork. To date, we have 4 partnerships, one with the Countryside YMCA in Lebanon, St. Leonard's up in Centerville, Optimized Living in Lebanon, and then rehabilitation services up in Dayton. And then we have a lot of individual families that have come to us that said, hey, we have a family member that would benefit from this type of riding situation or experience.
When you're pulling this all together, are you now a 501(c)(3)? What is the organization? Are you an LLC? How does this going to be set up?
We're a 501(c)(3).
Nonprofit. Nonprofit.
Right. So contributions can be made with, and it's tax-deductible contribution to an organization.
Because not only do we have the cost of the initial trikes, we also have operational costs too, such as our liability insurance, printed material, shirts for our volunteers, equipment for the trikes and the participants. We want this to be as inclusive as possible. So when I was talking to Advanced Rehabilitation Services up in Dayton, they're like, do we need to provide helmets? We're like, nope, we have that covered. Do we need to provide this? Nope, we have that covered. We just want to make it easy for those people that want to get involved as riders.
If you go on threewheeltherapy.org, all the links are on there. Our Facebook, Instagram, Venmo, where you can contribute or where you can volunteer and come ride with us. Those are all on the website.
So if this takes off like it sounds like, certainly somebody like me gets really excited about hearing that, and certainly down in the Cincinnati area. But if you project a year out or maybe 2 years out, and this is a success, what does it look like? You must have done some projections.
We'll start with 2 trikes in July of this year. I see that rapidly expanding into the Cincinnati area. We've been contacted by people that want to bring it down to the Cincinnati area. So you're looking at an additional 2 trikes there. And then we'll help move it to Columbus. I mean, I'd love to see Ohio be the center point. We already have 2 chapters. Why not keep expanding that?
And we have a great system of trails here in Ohio. I mean, there's so much access. It's unbelievable. Pat, that's another one of his jackets that he wears. He helps out on the trail to clear and clean up the trail. We've ridden them for years. We want to be able to give back. And we also have an aging population, and we have a lot of disabled young folk that would really benefit from getting out on a bike and having that experience. And then on the other side of that, we have the volunteer network. You said, where are you finding people? We haven't even been on the trails in Ohio yet. We understand from the other 2 chapters that once people see us, it's going to explode. They're going to want to know how they can go ride with us.
Yeah, just like you guys did.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're getting young people. We're getting retired cyclists who are trying to figure out how they still can be active and involved. We're getting retirees like ourselves that are looking for something to do, not a full-time job, but something on the side where they feel like they changed somebody's life a little bit, gave them some joy. So
are these bikes going to be in your possession? And what do you use? I'd imagine they're not light. So how do you transport them?
Right. So
Good
we
question.
are going to keep them at our house for the time being. We'd love to get a storage unit down the road. But then we'll have a trailer that we can transport the bikes from event to event. We'd like to eventually move to something like they did in Cleveland, where they actually have a van now, because that just opens up the possibilities for other people who want to volunteer to take a more poignant part in it by helping transport the bikes. We don't want to do this ourselves. We want to teach people how to do it, and then they take it on themselves. That's how you expand. It's not just Ruth and I doing it. And we've already seen that through one of our volunteers that last week we went down and supported the Flying Pig with the hand cyclists, but we also had a program in Lebanon. And Kirsten stepped up for us and went and took care of that program for us and had a presence there. That's what we're looking for as far as volunteers go, is to help us promote the program.
Wouldn't it be cool at the Flying Pig to have one of these bikes involved?
You're yes.
I was just saying.
Cool. Yes.
Just saying.
I think you have one at the start line.
I want in on that.
Yes. I thought the same thing while I was sitting there this past weekend.
If you guys are starting this chapter in the Dayton and Lebanon area, and you say that you're also going to be you're getting a lot of feedback from here in Cincinnati, and you're probably going to pilot that down here to a degree, then you'd probably be looking for somebody who's going to manage the chapter in Hamilton County, Cincinnati, right? That
Correct.
would be, but you'd start it, but then you'd like, okay, here are your own keys, learn from us, start your own chapter and rock and roll, because Dale knows lots of people. And I'm sure that there's probably going to be some interest out of this podcast for that.
I already had that conversation the other night at dinner by some folks that own a nice business in Lebanon, and just being able to make that connection, we will be doing that. But
When are you looking to take possession of the bikes?
We're hoping at the end of June. And then we are actually going up to Cleveland to go through our training in June. And then as soon as we have them, we're kicking it off. We probably, out of our 4 partners, they want to go once a month to start, just to be conservative in how we approach this. But we probably have, 4 or 5 friends or families that already want to be getting a ride.
So you'll be taking your first journey probably in July.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
and that will be where?
Probably Dayton. We have a very good friend. His wife has MS. And I said, did you ever think that you could take your wife on a bike ride? And he's like, there is no way. And I said, now we have an opportunity. So we'll do that for one of our friends.
Now, you guys are board members, correct?
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about your board member of the organization that you're serving on.
So we meet once a quarter with the other board members. And what we're talking about is, where are we sitting financially? What's our strategic plan? What other people have come on and said that they wanted to expand or start a chapter? How can we support them? So it's all about that strategic planning. If you talk to Ken, who's the husband of Nicole, he wants 500 chapters, which gives his wife heart pain.
And they're the ones in North Carolina.
Correct. Ken and
that
Nicole
started this.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's how can we help each other out as learning from the other people, such as the Akron group is actually lending us one of their trikes that we can take to a couple trade shows coming up to get exposure.
It's really cookie cutter. I mean, if you want to get involved in something and not start from the bare bottom, this is easy to replicate. And Ken and Nicole have made it simple for us. By allowing us to plug into these board meetings, we get the information we need to build it, to talk to people, to feel confident to come do a podcast with you guys, which we were extremely grateful for. But we are simply replicating what they're doing. Nicole is our grant writer, so we have been feeding her information. It really streamlines it for us and makes it simple. It allows the communication to stay good. Yeah, so it's quite simple. So if we expand into Cincinnati or Columbus, when we expand
There you go.
to Cincinnati or Columbus, we can simply plug them into this system and they can roll with it.
How is liability handled?
Yeah, it's a
Good
great
question.
question. So we actually have a liability policy that we fall under with the Akron group. And then North Carolina has their own policy. And again, that's some of the operational costs that we have to take care of financially.
I assume they're signing waivers if you're going to be the rider,
Yeah.
and if you're going to be the pilot on your bike.
Correct.
That's going to be covered under this. And I think that would be, one of those natural things that once you get plugged into the system, there's already been lots of conversation and there's a way to do that.
Right. Once the participants sign the waiver, it's good for that calendar year.
So you have that designated position as the pilot.
Correct.
You gave an example of a loved one or a family member that has, can't ride a bike. It's not assuming that other family member can say, well, I'm now the pilot. They'll probably ride on their bike next to them. Is that how that would work?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want them riding alongside their family member, not piloting the bike.
And what are your needs right now? You're about to get going here. You're about to launch. What needs are still outstanding?
So we're still looking at the financial impact that we're trying to make in affording both trikes. Right now, we have one trike paid for. So we've been successful with that from friends and families. We're also looking at continuing to network and garner more volunteers, because we just know that it's going to take numerous people to make this program move forward.
Can somebody sponsor a bike?
We do have sponsorships
Right.
that will connect with the Three-Wheel Therapy, our chapter. So if you're interested in that, contact us and we'll get you set up for that.
Right now, what they do is the contributions are directed towards our expansion program.
Got it.
So when it goes into the home office, they know that that's coming towards us.
But if I see an organization and we want to put our name on the bike, this is where my head's going, because I'm an ex-brand guy. So I'm all of a sudden thinking about, wait a second, the exposure you would get on the trail to put your little thing on saying you're part of this program would be immense.
It would be. And that's what they did up in Cleveland. Is they received a very nice donation from the Connor family So that name went on the van. And their one recommendation was it had to be named after their mother, who went on 2 rides. So it's now called the Paddy Wagon.
Oh, that's so good. Well done.
So we can get very creative.
I love that. So how do they get involved? Best way to do this is take us through that process and what the roles would be that you could fill by being a volunteer.
So the easiest thing for you to do is email us. And it's Dayton, DAYTONOH at 3 wheeltherapy.org.
And through all of your experience of going through this and finding 3-wheel therapy, what's your overall advice to somebody who's thinking about retiring? They're in the pre-retirement process. You seem to have really done some great planning and had some great thoughts about how to proceed forward. What's going to be your advice to them?
Well, start exploring your options early. Don't wait till you retire. Conversations are really important. Have them when you're not stressed, when you're sitting on the back porch, just having a cocktail, and think about what your goal is as far as we're doing this together because we want to experience new things together as a couple. This is not the end for us. This is our redirection, and this is our new plan. And we don't know it all. So we're learning as we go, which for us is really important. Small shifts can make big changes. And this for us is in our wheelhouse. This is cycling, which we love, being outdoors, which we love, taking care of people, which we love, and seeing the joy of not only our riders, but our volunteers. We're going to have a whole new network of friends there that were volunteering with us. Remain flexible and open. And just knowing that even as an older adult, we can still learn new things. That's important.
And that's the theme of the podcast, our whole entire podcast.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, Adam and Dale, I got to say something that this to me has been a very stimulating conversation. And I have to admit, it's the first time I've been in a room with some anesthetists and I'm not asleep. Ruth and Pat, I want to say thank you so much for coming in and telling us about how you're treating your pre-retirement plan. I love this idea about soft retirement. And if you have the ability to do that, that's fantastic. Getting into something that's in your wheelhouse and sharing the world with what you're doing.
And of course, me personally, this is one of the things that I recognize, and I think you guys too have. This is a work in progress. You've fallen into something that's truly a passion, something you love. For our listeners out there, there's something in there that you're passionate about, and acting on it, and how you've really jumped in with both feet is inspiring. And we're really, really honored to have you on our show today. So.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that if it isn't this particular idea for the Cincinnati or some other like charter, that we're inspiring people who are listening to say, hey, I have an idea. I wonder if there's an organization I can go chase my idea with and, become an extension of something that is already out there. And I think this hopefully inspires a whole bunch of people to push out, just start and take all that advice you shared, Ruth. And I think we should have them back like in a few months to see what the launch looked like and see how progress is going. And it's going to be great. Any closing remarks, any advice for the listeners?
No, we want to thank you guys for this opportunity. This all started with a breakfast with Dale. And it's
like a lot of things do.
Yes.
I like breakfast.
Yes. And
coffee on the back deck.
Coffee on the back deck.
And we would just welcome everyone to join us on this adventure. As Ruth said, we're giving something back, but we can't imagine the rewards that we're going to receive.
Yeah.
And that's huge. So thank you guys.
And thanks for joining us on the Redirect Podcast.
We'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the 1819 Innovation Lab at the University of Cincinnati for their incredible support and partnership making this show possible. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more of our content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well as Instagram. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at info@redirect-u.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.
Hey, I've got one more comment. The Redirect podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.